If you think your acoustic guitar mixes don't sound as good as they could, then you are not alone. So many home studio engineers struggle to get that rich and professional sound when it really comes down to just a few key moves. So today I'm going to show you how to transform your acoustic guitar mixes in just 4 steps. Let me start, as always, by showing you the acoustic guitar inside the finished mix here, and then I'll solo it up. You can hear what it sounds like in isolation, and I'll A-B our plug-in chain so you can hear our before and after on our acoustic guitar.
Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I won't back down.
You can hear without our plug-in chain in here, the pair of acoustic guitars, our stereo acoustic guitars, sound muddy, they sound cloudy, and they sound very, very boomy in the bottom end. There's no brightness, there's no clarity, but we click in this plug-in chain, suddenly our guitars feel big inside the track, but they're not boomy anymore. They have a ton of clarity and a ton of brightness on the top end without any of the ringing frequencies that were there beforehand. So let's jump into this chain. Let's jump into our 4 steps here. Step number 1, as per usual, is going to be getting rid of frequencies that we don't need, getting rid of problematic frequencies inside our guitar mix here. So for me, on this pair of acoustic guitars, that means a high-pass filter and notching out a couple ringing frequencies. So let me turn off these notches here, and we're going to focus in just on the high-pass filter to begin with here. I've got it rolled all the way up to 224 hertz. Now, if the acoustic guitar was the main instrument in this track, if there were less guitars, less keys, less vocals, and it was more bare bones, I would leave more of the bottom end in here. But this is a rock style track. We don't need all that boomy bottom end on the acoustic guitar. It needs to sit inside this track here. So I'm rolling up this high pass filter to roll off all of that sub area that we don't need, that boominess, and inch up into the low mids to clean up that frequency range as well. So take a listen without the high pass filter and then with it in. 12 dB per octave slope at 224 hertz. This is the biggest move you can do to increase the focus on your acoustic guitar. We go from hearing all of this woofiness down in the low end and the low mids here to focusing more on the top end, the shininess and the brightness of the acoustic guitar that we want to hear inside the track. We don't want to hear all that woofiness and boominess in the bottom end. So high pass filter really, really helps to focus in on the acoustic guitar. Now, these other cuts here that we're going to get rid of, these other frequencies that we're going to get rid of are notches. These are going to be our clarity enhancing moves, okay? We've shifted our focus from the woofiness in the bottom end to the shininess and the brightness in the top end, but now we need to get some clarity out of that top end area. There's 3 frequencies that we're ringing. This is going to happen when you mic an acoustic guitar, especially one like this that's a 12 string. You have a lot of frequencies that are going to be ringing out. We're just targeting a few of them here to enhance the clarity on the acoustic. The first one here is at 588 hertz. I'm going to hit play here and I'll boost each of these up and then cut them back down so you can hear the frequency we're getting rid of, and then you can hear how the clarity enhances as we pull each one out. We kick these notches in and we get so much more clarity out of this acoustic guitar because we're focusing more on the tone of the acoustic guitar rather than these kind of pokey ringing frequencies here. You want to make sure as you're pulling ringing frequencies out that they're things that are out of key of the acoustic. All three of these were not in key. They weren't in harmony with our acoustic guitar. If there's any ringing frequencies that happen to be in tone or in key with the acoustic guitar, sometimes you want to keep those or not as drastically cut those out because they are contributing to the sound of the overall acoustic inside of your track. So that's our first step here. We want to get rid of any frequencies that are problematic with our acoustic. So any woofiness, boominess, and anything that's preventing the overall clarity of our acoustic. Now, step number 2 is we want to bring in some compression. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I like to use an 1176 style compressor on acoustic because it helps emphasize the attack, and for me it gives the acoustic guitar some extra energy so it can compete with things like electrics, drums, and vocals inside the track. It gives me that extra edge that helps the acoustics cut through the rest of the mix here. So I'm using this 1176, this FET style compressor. I've got the attack at 0.55 milliseconds and the release all the way fast at 50 milliseconds, 4-to-1 ratio, so the gentlest for this unit, but it's still a more aggressive ratio to pull down some of the bigger peaks, even out our acoustic guitar volume overall. Take a listen here without and then with. Pay attention to our volume change. It's going to even out our acoustic guitar dynamics overall, keep it consistent inside the track, but it's also going to help our tone and energy of the guitar. It's only 3 dB of compression on the guitar here, but it takes it from feeling more passive to feeling a bit more aggressive. So when we tuck this inside the rest of the track, you'll hear that panned out wide. It's not going to get drowned out by everything else that's going on. This 1176, this FET comp, is one of my favorite tools for taking a more mellow acoustic guitar performance and giving it some energy and power so it sits nicely inside of a mix. So just 3 dB of reduction there, grabbing some of those peaks, but also adding energy and adding some edge to our acoustic guitar inside of this track here. That's step 2. Step number 3 is we're going back to our first EQ and we're going to boost top end into our compressor. So we have our compressor that's going to hold our acoustic guitar in place, and we're going to push up top end into it. And that's going to balance out the frequency range of our acoustic guitar here. The first area we're going to look at is up at 8K. I want to give this guitar some brightness and I want to give it some shine on the top end. So it's that kind of big, beautiful acoustic guitar that has all that richness that you really want to hear when you think about a nice acoustic guitar mix. So 8K, we're boosting almost 6 dB, 5.76 dB. Take a listen to how this changes the sound of our acoustic mix. Gives us a ton of brightness and a ton of shine on this acoustic, and it brings out the more percussive side of the instrument. We've got our tone right with our first step, getting rid of the frequencies we don't need. We get our tone right. Now we can bring out the percussive element and the brightness of our instrument here so it sits really, really nicely. It blends in. We get that nice shine on the edges of our mix. That's what we're looking for here with our top end boost, that nice brightness and that nice shine and sheen across the top of our acoustic mix here. Now I do have one more boost here down around 3K, 2.4, 3K, about a 4 dB boost here. This is going to add some mid-range fullness to our acoustic. We've done a lot of cuts here in the mid-range. We're going to bring a little bit of the high mids back here so our guitar doesn't feel so scooped. We have our bottom end, and then we have this boost on the top end. We want to give it some fullness here, and a little bit of high mid energy does help it sit really, really nicely with things like keys and electric guitars in the rest of the track here. Just slots them in nicely so they sit in harmony with the rest of our mix. 4 dB at 2.5K here. Take a listen. It's a smaller boost than we did on the top end, but it makes such a drastic difference in the energy and overall tone of our acoustic here. I think Dave Pensato said it best when he said mid-range is what you're selling on acoustics, because it always comes through to enhance the sound of our acoustic guitar here. So that's our step 3 there, is adding top end boosts but pushing into compression. So our compressor is going to hold these boosts in place so nothing gets too out of control. Step 4, we are going to take that idea, that philosophy even further, and we're going to control the top end. So we did these big boosts on the top end, 6 dB and 5 dB. Now I'm going to use this preset I've created on the Studio One, the PreSonus Multiband Dynamics. It's called Guitar Tamer. All it is 1K and above, so that's the only band we're looking at, 1K and above, 20-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, fastest release, so working pretty much like a limiter on the top end. I've got the tone where I want it on the acoustic guitar, but boosting a lot of top end like that, you can get some peaks that jump out and can get brittle or harsh for your listeners' ears. So I like to use the multiband at the end of the chain and just kind of tap on the top end so it sits more consistently and it's not jumping up and down and it won't hurt our listeners' ears. So 1K and above, 20-to-1 ratio. Take a listen to what this does and you can see the gain reduction we're doing on the top end of our acoustic. You can hear we get a much more cohesive and even sound out of the instrument by balancing out and controlling the top end here. Just visually, I like to park the threshold here about even with where the rest of the frequency range is sitting. That way the top end sits right even with the rest of the frequency range, and anything that was jumping out just gets nudged down by the compressor there inside of the mix. So here's our whole acoustic, and I'll A-B our entire chain here one more time. So much brighter, has so much more clarity and focus, and more richness to the sound overall. No more boominess, no more woofiness. This is going to sit perfectly inside our track here. So let's throw our acoustic back inside the mix, and we'll A-B it one more time, see what our processing is doing to our overall guitar inside the track.
Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I won't back down.
4 steps to transform your acoustic guitar mix. Step number 1 is we're getting rid of any frequencies we don't need, removing problematic frequencies from our guitar. So using our high pass filter to get rid of woofiness and boominess in the bottom end, and then using notches to pull out any ringing frequencies and increase the clarity of our instrument. Step number 2 is using compression to get more evenness and consistency out of our acoustic. Also adds a little bit of energy with it being a FET style compressor. Step number 3 is we're using our top end boosts, pushing into compression to kind of shift the frequency range of our acoustic, get more brightness and get a little bit more high mid energy so it cuts through the rest of the mix. And then step number 4, our final step for transforming our acoustic guitar mix, is using a multi-band compressor to control our top end and get a very, very even and consistent frequency range out of our acoustic guitar mix. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer. Then I have just a tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork. Completely free for you to download, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.